さあ、どうするの？私を殺したいんでしょ？だったら殺せばいいわ。
How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos Child. So, the last episode, at the end of the last episode to be exact, a lot went down in the last episode. Not exactly in terms of plot, but just in what I did. But in the end of the last episode, I finally got to where Kurusu's route begins, and it looks like it's going to be heavily involved in the plot in some sort of way, or at least it's going to be intertwined with it, in contrast to the 3 previous routes that we've gone down. Not to say that those were bad in any way, but I am kind of excited because if this is actually connected to the plot, then yay, we might get like some more details related to the main plot. So I'm totally down with that. Right now we've actually come in on Kurusu and Serika fighting, which Takuru was not able to do in the common route. He came in when Kurusu died, really. Other things that went down in the other episode, or in the previous episode, other than getting to Kurusu's route, was basically Uki's route, and getting all the other endings other than the first ending that we got, or the first good ending, if that's what you want to call it. So we got our second good ending, we got all 4 bad endings, and then I just did a whole bunch of skipping just to get to this. So let us continue on.
今すぐにタクルの目の前で、それがタクルのしたいことなんでしょ？だったら私は喜んで殺されてあげるわ。
クルス。
Also for context, because I kind of cut off the last episode in the middle of context, Kurusu revealed that while banging swords against each other or whatever, I don't know why I described that way, but while they were fighting, she was able to read Serika's mind, which seems to be a weakness, or a drawback, if you will, of her power. Obviously, Serika can read minds, while her mind can get read as well during a fight. What did she say? It was what I wanted. I wanted her to kill Kurusu? What the hell did that mean?
あなたにはタクルの心がわかるのよね。タクルが私を殺してほしいって本当にそう思ってるならやりなさい。どうしたの？殺さないの？
Kurusu held her D-sword in one hand and spread the other out to the side, as if to demonstrate how vulnerable she was. But Serika didn't attack her.
セリカ、あなたの考えてることは矛盾してるわ。
矛盾？は？どこが矛盾してると言うんだ？
あなたはこう思ってる。自分はタクルにやりたいことを与え、それを叶えるために存在しているって。
Serika gives me something I want to do? And that's why she exists? What the hell was going on here? It didn't make sense. The two of them kept glaring at each other, ignoring me.
でも、こんなのタクルのやりたいことだと思う？親友である伊藤君に大事な妹ユイを殺されて、そんなことタクルが本当に望んでると思うの？
それはこのゲームを盛り上げるための。
なら私も殺しなさい。そうすればタクルがもっと喜ぶんでしょ？この
I mean, Kurusu does have a point when you think about it. Like, there's a lot of flaws in Serika's logic, and we kind of found that out at the end of the common route. So I'm glad some of that's kind of, you know, getting thrown in her face here. Kurusu had lowered her weapon, completely exposing herself. Serika raised her own.
やめろ、尾上。
宮代タクル。
僕はそんなこと望んでない。僕はそんなことしたくない。してほしくもない。
I finally knew now. I finally knew what was important to me. What I really wanted was... Sarika swung her D-sword up high, as if driven by some unseen force.
やめろ
ダメタクル
You know, the term clash would have been a way better term to use when I was trying to explain things earlier. I tried to leap between them, but Kirisu's voice interrupted me.
来てはダメ今はセリカと話をさせて
Now hold on. I've seen another timeline here. I don't think that's a good idea.
でも
お願いよタクル
A lot happens on this rooftop, by the way. Her voice was calm, but there was no room for disagreement. I hesitated a moment and then stopped. But I was ready to jump in at any moment if I needed to. Kirisu turned toward Sarika once more and continued. Sarika was still holding her D-sword above her head, but she was pale and unmoving.
セリカあなた人の心は読めるのに自分の心は全然分かってないのね
何
Now that's deep.
確かに最初はタクルのために始めたゲームだったでも途中からあなたの目的は変わってしまったのよタクルのためのゲームではなくあなた自身のためのゲームに
私のためのゲーム
わからないあなたはねタクルと過ごすうちにタクルを支えられるのは自分だけだとそう考えるようになったのタクルが心を許す存在は自分だけそうじゃないと我慢できなくなったのね
違う私は
あなたは羨ましくなったそして許せなくなったタクルが心を許している家族のことを親友を自分の存在を脅かす存在を
This visual really shows how freaking large that shit is.
そしてタクルに家族や友達のことを思う心を育ててしまったこの私を許せなくなった
黙れ
私にはわかるわあなたの嘘があなたの気持ちがだってそれはあなたがタクルを
黙れよ
セリカ確かにあなたは人形だったのかもしれないでも今はもう
黙れ黙れ黙れ
Alrighty.
セリカ
お前あんたなんかに何がわかるって言うのよ嘘何が嘘だって言うんだ
Sorry for that, by the way. I got a lovely Steam message. But I won't say what it said. Something was wrong with the way she was talking. It was a mix between the Sarika I knew and the one I didn't.
大体お前が人のことを言えるのか嘘つきはどっちよこの嘘つき嘘つき
Kirisu froze for a moment when Sarika called her a liar. Sarika must have thought she finally had the upper hand again because she smiled.
さっきもそうだったけど顔色が変わったねタクによっぽど知られたくないんだ嘘つきさん
Liar? Come to think of it, Sarika had said before that there was something Kirisu wasn't telling me. No, Kirisu told me that herself too. Oh yeah.
いつかタクルにだけは私が言えないでいること何もかも全部話したいと思ってるそのせいでまた嫌われちゃうかもしれないけどそれでも構わない
How could I've completely
その
forgotten
時は
about that. How could I?
ちゃんと最後まで聞いてくれる
Holy shit. Damn, I'm a freaking bonobo. What was going on? What were Sarika and Kirisu saying? I guess I'm just forgetful.
私ね全部知ってるあんたが出来の悪い嘘つきの
Oh man, don't use that voice.
やめて。
フェイクだってことをね。
Yo, but I do stand Sarika's voice actor. I'm just throwing that out right now. Like, I love Sarika because of her voice actor. Kirisu's hand flew forward. Her blade sliced out towards Sarika in a circle, ripping through the air as it moved. It must have been an unconscious movement, so fast that there wasn't even time to read her mind. And Sarika hadn't expected her to stop talking and attack, so her response was a little slow. But she still managed to block it at the last minute.
オッケー、やる気満々だね。そういうの嫌いじゃないよ、のんちゃん。
The D-swords collided again. Their silver silhouettes scorched the atmosphere around them. The blades bit into one another in a rush of feints and parries. A scent like ozone stung my nostrils. I promise you guys I will read all of the tips before I go into the final route. I just haven't had the time or patience or motivation. I'd lost my chance to stop the two of them, and all I could do was watch them fight. Yeah, I don't recommend doing that. Why? What was going on here?
ほら、どうしたの？もう終わり？もっと遊ぼうよ。
Okay, so something a little off topic, but a couple or so episodes ago, some people in my comments section decided to let me know that something that is kind of talked about in Chaos Head, so something I would not obviously know all that well because I only watched the anime, but it did sound a little familiar when they talked about it, was the color of the D-swords. If they're blue, apparently they're only viewable by gigalomaniacs, and if they're pink, then they're completely real-booted into the real world, so they're like real objects that can be seen by anybody. I think I got that right. So just a little fun fact if you didn't know, because I definitely did not know. But I feel like that was brought up in the anime, I'm not gonna lie, like the whole blue and pink thing. That sounded way too familiar. Kurusu had been the one to start this fight, but she seemed so unable to hide her shock at having done so. Sarika, meanwhile, was showing no signs of fear or resistance at all. Her strikes were calm and precise. And in this battle, that was what made the fatal difference.
ああ、そっか。そういえば運動は苦手なんだっけ？
Sarika laughed and pulled her blade away. It was an obvious trap.
ダメだ、クルス。
You know, Kurusu's really stupid when you think about it. Kurusu attacked, falling for the obvious trap. Sarika smiled and moved just a little, and then waited for the sword to go by. Kurusu had stepped too far forward and failed to strike her target. She lost her balance. Her body was wide open to the threat in front of her. Damn, bro. Kurusu gonna die in her own route?
長い付き合いだったけど、これで終わりだね。バイバイ、のんちゃん。
Oh my god, dude. That smirky attitude, dude. Or at least the smirk on her face. Shit. A cold, cruel voice and a single strike from above. A waterfall of light appeared in midair, coming right down on top of Kurusu's skull. It was a simple attack, but clearly a fatal one. My body finally slipped away from my mind and moved. But my hand was too far away. I wasn't going to make it in time. There she blows, excuse me. I almost said there she is. But then my hand grabbed onto something. It was a D-sword gleaming dull gray in the moonlight. Ooh. I grabbed the weapon from the rift between dimensions and swung it up as hard as I could to block the strike above Kurusu's head. I put more strength into it and knocked Serika's sword away. It was a D-sword. I could feel it in my hands. A cursed blade, something I had created that existed only for me.
どうしてタク
Serika stopped attacking and looked like she was about to cry. Her voice was weak, but it was the voice of the girl I'd known since I was little.
どうしてのんちゃんを選ぶのずっとそばにいた私じゃなくて
おのえ。
どうしてなのねえタクそれがタクの望んだ世界
Hey man, stop using that voice, it scares me. The fact that she's using her high-pitched, friendly voice here just really freaks me out. Serika was mumbling to herself like a patient with severe heat stroke, excuse me.
おのえ、聞いてくれ。おのえ。やだよそんなの。私は。
セリカ
Serika turned around and vanished into the darkness before either of us could say another word. I didn't know what was going on anymore. Yui was dead, Ito had killed her, and Serika and Kurusu had just been trying to kill each other with swords. Why Serika? And why did Kurusu have a D-sword? Was she a psychic too?
クルス。
Excuse me, Kurusu suddenly looked at me in terror.
一体何があったのか。これがどういうことなのか。聞かせてくれないか。お願いだ。
Kurusu slowly closed her eyes and then nodded. Heads or tails, a puzzling entanglement of shadows and light. When I'd finished hearing the truth from her, I looked out at the sky in silent shock. I felt helpless, like the ground beneath me had crumbled and I was falling into hell. The strength left my body and I fell to my knees on the hard concrete. Kurusu had told me everything. She gave me just the objective facts without adding any of her own opinions in. She told me the truth behind the return of the new generation madness. It was unbelievable. Onoe Serika was behind it all. Kinda. And all of it was being done for my sake. Oh, yeah. Just like the ridiculous theory I'd come up with, it was a game. And I was the player. Yeah.
信じられない。
タクル
だってそうだろ。そんなのデタラメだ。なんで尾上がそんなことしなきゃならないんだ。どうして尾上にそんなことができる。あいつは僕とずっと一緒だったんだ。そばにいてほしい時はいつだって一緒にいてくれたんだ。それなのに。
さっきも言ったわ。それだからこそよ。
Kurusu spoke. Her face was filled with sorrow.
セリカはいつもあなたと一緒だった。だからこそ、タクル、あなたのために。
僕のために。
Serika had committed all those murders for me. She'd killed all those people and for me. She'd killed Yui for me. For me. For...
信じられない気持ち、わかるわ。信じたくないのもわかる。私もそうだったから。でも、真実だったの。
Of course I knew that Kurusu wouldn't tell me this as a joke. And I'd seen how Serika had acted a moment ago. Serika had intended to kill Kurusu. But if all that was true...
それじゃあ僕のせいってことじゃないか。
Yui's death? All the deaths? Even the fact that Serika had killed them?
全部何もかも全て僕のせいってことじゃないか。
タクル、
I felt something soft surround me as I knelt on the ground.
ダメ、タクル。
クルス。
そんな風に考えちゃダメ。自分を責めてはダメ。
There was a gentle smell like old memories, Kurusu smell.
だって、わかるはずないもの。自分のせいでこんなことが起きるなんて。
けど。
あなたは、あの地震の時にちょっと考えてしまっただけ。その気持ちを勝手に読み取られて、勝手に暴走されてしまった。それだけなの。だから、あなたは悪くない。ゆいだって、あなたのこと恨んでなんかいないわ。絶対に。
Her words were as soft as a whisper, but they were strong.
僕はクルスにも謝らなきゃいけない。
謝る？
全部クルスの言う通りだった。最初に事件を追うなって言われた時もその通りにしておけばよかった。犯人だって南沢千里さんじゃなかった。それなのに僕はクルスの大切な静かに眠ってる友達まであんな風に言って、クルスの心傷つけて。
いいの。気にしないで。
ありがとう。
Kurusu held me... Excuse me, shit, I'm dying. Kurusu held me close until I was able to think clearly again. Damn. Sometimes I just, start
大
dying.
丈夫？
To be honest, I wasn't anything close to okay, but I couldn't sit up here on the roof forever. Yeah, there's a lot of fights that happen up here, we should get out. I stood up and looked around. The whole place was quiet, as if the battle had never happened. But then you see the blood, and then you're like, oh, okay. And my D-sword had disappeared, too.
クルス、もう一つだけ聞いてもいいかな。
ん？
どうして今まで教えてくれなかったんだ。
She must have known what I was going to say before I asked. Her face twisted in sorrow. But I had to ask.
自分がギガロマニアックスだってこと。
それは、
She looked down a little, and when she looked up again, there was something like resolve in her eyes.
だって、人に言いふらすようなことじゃないわ。みんな嫌がるだろうし。タクルだって。
It would upset everyone. What was her power?
嫌がったりしないよ。僕自身もギガロマニアックスだし。教えてくれないか？どんな能力なのか。
Yeah, I'd love to
言わな
know.
きゃダメかな。
Yes, this is your route. You kind of have an obligation.
まだ何が起こるかわからないんだ。どんなことでも知っておきたい。
So whose like massive amount of blood is that? Kurusu hesitated for a moment but finally spoke.
私のは、有村さんと同じなの。
有村と同じ？
ええ。人の言うことが嘘か本当かわかるのよ。最初にセリカが変だって思ったのも、この能力のおかげだし。
そうだったのか。
でも、有村さんも言ってなかった？そんなにいいものじゃないって。
どうだったかな。
人の言葉の裏表なんて知りたくないことばかり。それにこんな能力を持ってるって知られたら、みんな私を避けようとするわ。
I remember that Arimura had been reluctant to show off her power, too. It was probably better not to know what people were really thinking when they spoke, and she probably wouldn't want people avoiding her.
私の場合、有村さんほど正確じゃないんだけどね。正解率 60% といったところかな。
That finally explains something. why Serika had called Kurusu a fake. She must have been saying that she just had a bootleg copy of Arimura's power.
ねえタクル。
ん？
私たちこれからどうすればいいのかしら。
Let's go home and tell Sakuma about all this. What could we do now that we knew the truth? Now that we'd lost Yui, Ito, and even Serika. To be honest, my head was a mess and I couldn't think straight. But there was one thing I could say, and that was...
とにかく尾上をなんとかしなきゃ。
I couldn't let her kill anyone else. If everything that had happened so far was the result of my wish, then we had to end it here. If Serika's plan was going to continue, the next murder would happen on November 4th, today. And her target was probably Kurusu Nono, the girl who knew too much. I had to protect Kurusu no matter what. I couldn't let Serika commit any more crimes either. What about Uki? She's like, really at risk. A faint vibration pulled me out from the sea of sleep. Who the hell could be calling at this hour? Sorry guys, I'm sorry for all the coughing and all that. Wait, what time was it? And where was I? I remembered everything and was instantly fully awake. If Serika was going to attack Kurusu, it would be on November 4th. I'd stayed over in Kurusu's room last night to keep her safe. Dad was away, tonight of all nights, on some conference or meeting or something. Yeah, of course, huh? It was up to me to keep Kurusu safe, but at some point I'd fallen asleep.
そうだ、来るぞ。
Maybe we should answer the phone? I leaped up and looked at the bed and she wasn't there. Where did she go? No way. Just before I raced out of the room to go look, I caught a glimpse of my smartphone's screen. The phone was still vibrating. Kunasato. It was rare for her to call me. What had happened? I grabbed the phone with a shaking hand, afraid for what I was about to hear.
もし。
My voice was hoarse since I'd just woken up.
眠っていたか。のんきなことだな。
She was as rude as ever.
そんなことより何なんです。わざわざ電話なんて。
あいにくだが、細かい前置きをしている状況じゃない。端的に要件だけを言う。昨日、11月4日がどういう日か知っているな。
My heart started to beat faster.
ドキュンパズルですか。
そうだ。予想通り、新たな犠牲者が出た。
It wasn't Kurusu, was it? My heart felt like it was about to stop. But when she told me the victim's name, it was someone I never expected.
11月4日、深夜。東京都渋谷区にて惨殺死体が発見された。所持品などを調べた結果、被害者の名前は佐久間渡。児童養護施設青葉寮の経営者だ。
Oh. So you guys want to go celebrate this man's death? I felt a shock, like someone had pounded a nail into the center of my brain. My ears began to ring and everything started to feel unreal. Dad had been killed? I prayed that this was some kind of nightmare, but I didn't even have the right to escape into my delusions.
父さんはいつ。
Yeah, please no more like by choice delusions.
ほう。本当かとは聞かないのか。こういう場合、普通なら疑ってかかってもおかしくはないと思うが、それとも最初からその可能性があったか。いや、今はどうでもいいことだな。一応詳細を教えておいてやる。
お願いします。
死亡推定時刻は11月4日22時半から23時半。死因は鋭い刃物による頸動脈の切断。それも
ただの一撃で致命傷を与えられていた。防御層や争った形跡もない。にもかかわらず真正面から切りつけられている。可能性として考えられるのは3つ。1つ目は加害者と被害者が顔見知りだった。2つ目は加害者が被害者を待ち伏せするなどしてとにかく不意打ちにした。そして3つ目はその合わせ技だな。
Kunisato's tone was calm and level. She was like a doctor telling a patient the result of an exam. But to be honest, I preferred it that way.
私が知っている情報は以上だ。いずれ警察からも連絡があるだろう。そちらで何か心当たりがあれば教えろ。
Sounds good. Once she was done talking, she hung up. But I kept the phone pressed against my ear, barely aware of what I was doing. What an interesting turn of events. I was not expecting that. Dad had been killed. And it didn't feel real hearing the words. Not gonna lie, my anxiety was jumping, like before we heard the name. But just like Kunisato had said, there was no point in her lying. And if she was telling the truth, excuse me, the murderer was probably definitely Serika. But why would Serika kill Dad? Because she needed to finish the string of killings? And of course that was probably part of it, but why Dad? Had she gone after Dad since I was keeping her from getting to Kurusu? No. No. Now's not the time to be thinking about that. Dad was murdered. And I was the reason. I killed Yui and I killed Dad. That's right, what about Kurusu? I ran into the living room and found her.
Kurusu.
She was standing there in shock, holding the phone in her hands. She slowly turned toward me and spoke in a voice that was barely audible.
Takuru. 父さんが。
Kurusu.
Methinks she fell to the floor. The thing is, I can't exactly, blame their reactions. They don't know the truth about him. So I can kind of get it. I'm not really feeling all that sad, because I know the truth, obviously. I ran to her and grabbed her before she could hit the ground.
Takuru. 父さんが死んだって。父さんが。知ってるの？どうして？
さっき、久野里さんから連絡が。
そう。
Her hands gripped my arm so tightly that it hurt. To be honest, I'd never seen her so weak before. She'd always been strong. But now Yui and Dad were dead. And at the hands of a person she thought was her friend.
どうしよう。タクル、私たちこれからどうすればいい？そうだ、ユウトに知らせなきゃ。それからウキちゃんにも、あと警察に行って身元の確認をしてほしいって。学校にも連絡は。それに。
You really gotta calm the hell down.
落ち着いてクルス。
Strangely, it seemed that being in the presence of someone who was more panicky than yourself actually made you calmer. That is actually true. I am not denying that. I softly patted her on the head. Just like she'd done for me last night.
今はいい。余計なことは考えなくていいから。
Of course, that didn't actually make it better. Without Dad, we had all kinds of problems to deal with. But first, we'd have to calm down.
ごめんね、タクル。もう少し経てば元の私に戻るから。だから。
Only then did I finally realize. Kurusu had probably always forced herself to be strong like this, no matter what had happened. She's told herself she needed to be tough no matter what. That she'd had to be strong to protect Yui and Yuto without me at Alba Dorm. But I'd been selfish and... It's okay now. I'm here for you. And that's probably what I should have said. God damn it, Takuru. but all I did was gently rub her back. That's good enough too. The next few days were a blur. We had to go to the police and ID the body, and then get the death certificate. I was surprised at how much work there was for the family of a murder victim to do. I was worried there might not be time to properly mourn, but maybe it was better to be so busy there wasn't time to remember you were sad. Both Kurusu and I were able to forget about things during all that. The problem was Yuto. He had lost his sister, and now his adoptive father was dead. He was never a strong boy to begin with, so he was in pretty bad shape. Yeah, but what's worse, losing your foster father or another sister? Another, foster sister. I don't know, man. I mean, it sucks either way, but with the truth behind Sakuma, I don't know. But Yamazoe was what saved him. She'd stayed with him the whole time while we were running around. After the autopsy of Dad's body was finished, it was decided that he'd been cremated. We didn't have the money for a funeral, but a local neighborhood group put together enough money for the cheapest service available. We somehow managed to make it work. A lot of Dad's old patients came to pay their respects. Outside of all of his evil doings, he was probably a good guy. And when it was all over, we suddenly found ourselves facing a new problem. Where are we gonna live?
そんな、私たちにここを出て行けって言うんですか？
立て続けの不幸の上に追い打ちをかけるような状況になってるんだ。君たちには酷なことだと思うが。
Shinjo would come to visit us that day in Alba Dorm. He had a bitter look on his face as he spoke.
今回の事件を契機にうちの二課が調べたんだが、どうやら佐久間氏は保険に入っていなかったようでな。
それは、はい、そうです。父さんには何度か言ったんですが、本人が面倒くさがって、まさかこんなことになるとは思っていなかったので。
I'd never talked to Dad about money. She was the only one in the dorm who knew that.
ここの財布を管理していたのは君か？
はい。
だったらわかると思うが、経営状態も芳しいとは言えない。むしろ、もともと赤字経営なところに、あちこちに出している不当たりが積もりに積もって、窒息寸前って状態だった。
I knew we weren't rich, but I had no idea it was that bad. And yet Dad had taken us in anyway. Only now, when it was too late, did I realize how much he'd protected us.
その上、この建物自体も抵当に入っていたようだ。君か宮代くんが相続しても構わないが、仮にそうしたところで建物ごと取り上げられた挙句、借金だけが残ることになる。とても賢明な判断とは言えないだろう。
Yeah, I'm not really into all the mortgage and loan shit or anything like that, but even I know that'd be a really piss poor idea. In other words, we had no choice but to leave.
ねえ、のの姉ちゃん。
Yuto was standing a little way from us looking scared.
どういうこと？僕たちどうなっちゃうの？
Oh, we're getting evicted.
言うと、
僕たちここを出て行かなきゃいけないの？そんなの嫌だよ。だってここは僕の家だもん。僕とお姉ちゃんとお父さんと、それからのの姉ちゃんとたくる兄ちゃんとうき姉ちゃんと、みんなで暮らした家だもん。そんなの僕
ゆうとくん。
Yamazoe held him gently as he started to cry. Her face was clouded with worry, too. I could understand it. She'd finally made it out of that basement, and had only just started getting used to her new life, and now this had happened.
でも、急にここを出て行けなんて言われても、 僕たちには他に行くところがありません。
I could go back to the RV I'd been living in. Oh yeah, we're totally solid to be honest, but everybody else isn't. But I wouldn't be able to fit everyone there. There was no room in there for 4 people, even if some of them were kids. Let's get them all RVs.
それなんだが、別の施設に移るってのが妥当だと思う。
別の施設。
ただ、これも一つ問題があってだな。例の地震以降、都内の施設はどこも満杯なんだ。全員まとめて同じ場所ってのはどうも難しいらしい。
それってつまりそれぞれ別の施設にってことですか？
Yo, that's fucked, man.
そういうことになるだろうな。
そんな。
Yuto was the first to speak.
そんなの嫌だよ。ここを出てくだけじゃなく、みんなとバラバラだなんて。そんなの僕。
I gasped a little as I heard the tension in Yuto's voice. I had never seen him express himself so clearly to an adult. That was how serious the prospect of leaving everyone was to him.
私も嫌です。
Yamazoe rubbed Yuto's back, speaking in a clearer voice than I'd ever heard from her before.
せっかくみんなと家族になれたのに、そんなのひどいです。
I mean, it's not exactly Shinjo who's doing it. Shinjo scratched his head, as if he wasn't sure what to say. He was a nice guy, really. Telling us this stuff wasn't even his job. But he was the one who had told us. And he was the only person we could complain to.
大丈夫よ、ユウト。それにユキちゃん、私が何とかするから。
なんとかってどうするつもりだ？
それはアルバイトとか。
バイトって、これだけの人数が生活できるほど稼げるわけがない。
でも学校を辞めれば。
本気か？
だって他にみんなが一緒にいられる方法なんてないじゃない。私だってみんながバラバラになるなんて嫌なの。大事な家族だもの。
We could start a GoFundMe. Well, the internet already knows about us.
僕も働く。
ユウト。
のの姉ちゃんたちと一緒にいられるんだったら、僕も働く。新聞配達とか僕にだってできるし。
I never expected Yuto to say something like that. His life here must have been very important to him. But it was important to me too. And there was something else we had to worry about. Was Sarike going to give up now? She hadn't come after us so far, but there was no guarantee she wouldn't come after Kurusu again. Or maybe Yuto or Uki would be her next target. Which meant there was only one thing I could do.
生活は僕の蓄えを使えばしばらくは何とかできると思う。
タクル。
問題は住む場所だ。
But would any place rent a room to a bunch of students who just lost their father?
まあ、最初からこうなるだろうとは思ってたよ。
Shinjo sighed and scratched his head some more, then took out his phone, or took his phone out of his pocket.
何かいい方法があるんですか？
こういうのが得意な知り合いに当たってみる。ああ、君たちもよく知ってる人物だよ。ただ断っとくが、見つかるという保証はないぞ。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Kurusu, Yuto, and Yamazoe all bowed.
ったく、こういうのは俺の仕事じゃないんだがな。
Damn. You know what? Shinjo's my favorite character in this game. He mumbled to himself as he dialed a number, then put the phone up to his ear. I would assume he's calling Momose.
もしもし、百瀬さんですか？折り入って話があるんですが、今時間いいですか？
Called it.
さあ、ここがあんたたちの部屋よ。
Ooh, a new home. I can't wait to see it in the next episode. I am ending this episode early. and I greatly apologize. Like, I seriously apologize, but for some reason, I can't speak. Like, I really can't. It might have to do with the fact that I've recorded now 2 episodes of Chaos Child and 2 episodes of Persona 5 Royal, all within the span of, well, a day, I guess, but my days are a little off and skewed because now it's almost 3 in the morning. My sleep schedule is completely screwed, and I've started going back to school, so yeehaw on that one. So I apologize for this being a little bit of a shorter episode, and I'm positive that the previous one was short too. I haven't gotten around to editing that one. So I'll be sure to have the next one be a little longer to make up for it. And if that one, if that one's short, then I don't know, I'll do something. I'll kick myself for sure if I screw you guys over there, but I do apologize. But thank you guys for tuning in. I am interested to see the direction that this goes in because it is the closest to the common route that we've ever been, but a different kind of direction. And I'm totally down for it because, you know, I love the main plot. I really do. That shit, you know, gave me a fucking plot boner, but, you know, we've kind of been straying away from it. So I'm definitely excited to see where this goes. Even if things will slow down a little bit here as we try to get settled and figure things out, I'm excited to see where this could go as we continue on. So thank you guys for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I'll get this cough under control. I don't know where that's been coming from, and I will see you all in the next episode. Take it easy.